Breaking news. Artificial intelligence is going to take your job. I go undercover, hack into the world's most powerful AI, and generate images that will blow your mind and put you out of work. Also, Pentax is releasing a film camera, and I have leaked specs for the new Samsung S23 Ultra camera. Before those stories, I want to thank our sponsor, Squarespace. They make amazing websites incredibly easy. Your social media is not enough. You need a permanent home on the web with your own custom domain. I make them just for personal projects, but everybody needs them for every business effort because that's professional, not gmail.com. I use northrupphotography.com. Doesn't that sound like I'm actually serious about the business? Get started today at squarespace.com/Tony. Try it out completely free. Just see how it works. No credit card required. If you love it, which you will, the coupon code Tony will get you 10% off. Thank you, Squarespace. First, Pentax is releasing a new camera, and it's not another DSLR. This is a film camera. Pentax has seen that, especially the younger generation, are picking up film cameras. Why? They're not technically superior to our modern digital mirrorless cameras, but film is a physical witness to the events that it captures. The actual light that bounces off your newborn baby or your bride at the wedding, it comes in contact with that negative. And you can hold on to that forever. Film is amazing in that way. I'm glad Pentax is trying this, but actually, I kind of wish we could see something more advanced. After all, there are tens of thousands of film cameras available to buy. You can go to KEH and just pick up totally capable film cameras that have either completely manual controls and all analog, or that are very advanced with sophisticated autofocus systems. But we do not have a film camera that can compete with modern mirrorless cameras. And especially as photographers age, those film cameras are going to become less and less usable. It's a lot to ask a younger person who either grew up on a smartphone or a modern mirrorless camera to go back and deal with the possibility of overexposures. But we have the capability to build the most amazing film camera ever. Here's my idea. I think this should be Canon because they've been taking some risks lately. Canon should take an R6 Mark II, an amazing mirrorless camera, but they give it the flange distance of the Canon DSLRs and the old EF mount. And that mirrorless sensor, instead of putting it where the film plane would be, you mount it where the prism in a DSLR would be. Essentially, the DSLR's focusing screen becomes a full-frame 24 megapixel sensor with all those mirrorless dual pixel autofocus capabilities. Now the film goes where the sensor is now, just like in a conventional film SLR. This is an SLR, and when you're shooting, the mirror is down and it is bouncing light up to that sensor, just like in the old Sony A-mount cameras. That means you have full mirrorless camera capabilities, animal, human AF. You could even capture digital images with your film camera if you wanted to. But when you press the shutter, you could also have that mirror flip out of the way and capture a film image, an image that has been perfectly exposed, that shows you what you see is what you get, because when you put that film in, you also told the camera what the film was. The display in the viewfinder matched the tone of that film, whether it's saturated color or completely black and white. It matched the ISO. It knows exactly what the exposure should be for that film. And every time you press the shutter, it captures a digital image too, a backup, something you can share instantaneously. And just in case that film gets scratched or lost or processed incorrectly, you have something digital, but you also have that analog physical witness to the event, the best of both worlds, something professionals could truly use for things like weddings. What do you say, Canon? Will you make us the best film camera ever made? You have 99% of what you need. Just a little bit of reworking, and you can make my dream come true. Think about it. Now let's talk about the Samsung S23 Ultra. The Samsung S22 Ultra just won our Smartphone Camera of the Year award, mostly because it has this amazing telephoto lens that blows away anything that the Sony, Google, Apple phones can do. Good news, bad news, that has not changed, though the rumors are they will be tweaking the color and putting in some AI improvements, software-based improvements. They could just trickle that down to the older generations. By the way, these rumors come from tomsguide.com. What is new is a 200 megapixel main camera sensor. I'm really skeptical about this. I was skeptical about the 100 megapixel sensor in the S22 Ultra, and indeed when I tested it, it did not show anywhere near that amount of detail. And in fact, most of the images weren't really any more detailed than we got out of something like a Pixel or an iPhone. So is increasing that number really going to change anything? After all, the sharpness is the least of the sharpness of the lens and the sharpness of the sensor. And a tiny little lens like that just is not going to resolve 200 megapixels. The rumors say it will also be capable of producing 50 megapixel or 12.5 megapixel images. And I will bet you anything that by default it simply produces standard 12 megapixel images, and you have to go through some special thing to produce the high resolution versions. And then again, I bet you won't actually benefit much from that. Rumors are also saying it'll produce better night images, which again is probably software tweaks. I did find that the Samsung didn't keep up, especially with the Google Pixel phone, which is our current leader for night photography. Now, for our lead story, is artificial intelligence taking your job as a photographer? I set up Discord and logged into I hacked into the world's most intelligent artificial intelligence. Anyway, it's actually pretty easy to do, but the user interface is counterintuitive. But once you get it working, it's fine. The way it works is MidJourney is this server, and you can type in a text prompt. You type /imagine and then whatever you want it to make a picture of, and it gives you a selection of 4 different pictures. You can then choose to get more variations on one of those, or you can upscale one of those images to get the final product. There are a bunch of different parameters you can put in, and people really pride themselves on figuring out all the keywords. You can see other people churning out images from MidJourney, and as a result, I see that some people are putting in literally 50 different keywords to craft the image that they want. Each image takes like a minute or two to generate, and I think you can get 25 images for free without having to pay anything, and then you have to pay if you're like a heavy user of it. Of course, these are images made up by a computer, but we actually do this in our heads all the time. I'm always envisioning some dream photo that I could do that I wish I could make. And my first thought was, okay, what if I could make a portrait of somebody on the moon with the Earth rising in the background? So into MidJourney, I typed /imagine man on moon with Earth in background photography. Photography is a keyword to show it's supposed to look like an image and not like a cartoon. And this is what it came up with. This is so cool. It's not perfect. If you look, this guy's head looks a bit like a balloon, but all I had to do was to click that and get some variations and refine it a little bit, and one of those solved it. But that is how easy and amazing it is. And I want you to think of this as a way to visualize your creativity, as a tool for photographers to use. If you're thinking about the coolest shoot, just put the words into MidJourney and see what the artificial intelligence thinks of it. See if that matches your vision, or maybe it throws in something random that sparks your creativity. Use this as a tool to make your images better. You don't necessarily have to think about it as competition, but I do believe in the future, this will be serious competition to many types of professional photographers. So I dove into stock, portrait, wildlife photography to see the potential impacts. Now, if you're not familiar with the term, stock photography are those images that you see on cereal boxes and at the top of BuzzFeed articles. They're often just generic people. Stock photography generally tries to convey some concept, some mood, like success at business or healthy eating. And Chelsea and I started our careers as stock photographers. We have sold tens of thousands of stock images. In fact, you might have seen us on everything from billboards to Viagra ads because of that. And I wanted to see if they could make usable stock images. So I made just a classic business stock image, /imagine, man in business suit pointing at chart with lines showing stock increase, photography. And it gave me these 4 options, and I was blown away. These are actually good. This combines the sort of graphic element with the businessman element, but they're not perfect. Like, they're all kind of in the uncanny valley. None of the human forms are completely perfect, but at a glance they pass. But he's supposed to be pointing at the chart, and he's kind of pointing past the chart. That's what this produces with no refinement. I went and refined the image in the bottom right corner, and I came up with this. And it's better. His face looks pretty believable, but he's still a little bit Pixar-ish. And if you look at his left shoulder here, you can see it doesn't quite meet the neck like it should. And his fingers are a little scary. But MidJourney and AI in general are improving incredibly quickly. So this is where it is at the end of 2022. Where's it going to be in a year or in 5 years? I'm sure you're going to be able to go in and just tap something and change it, move those lines, make very precise adjustments, things you can't do today. MidJourney is kind of a hacked together project, but what happens when Adobe buys it and they build it into Adobe Stock and Photoshop and they charge you 99 cents to make an image that looks like this, but isn't messed up like this and is more configurable? I absolutely believe that AI can change stock photography and probably reduce the amount of pictures actual stock photographers need to take by 95%. Here's another sample image. I thought, imagine 4 people in business suits at a conference table with a pie chart. I thought there'd be 4 people at a table and behind them somebody would be pointing at a chart on an easel. That's not what the AI thought. The AI put the pie chart in the middle of the table. But nonetheless, the images at a glance are very interesting, very compelling. But the more you look, the more it's a little confusing. Like some of the faces are downright scary at this steep angle, mostly because humans are very tuned in to how faces should look. So we would forgive little weirdnesses in the table or the suit, but when it comes to faces, we expect it to be very, very perfect. And that's why we have the term uncanny valley, because when an artificial face isn't quite right, it creeps us out a little. We're more comfortable with a cartoon like Mickey Mouse than we are with something that is almost human but not quite human. Chelsea had a theory that maybe this was to protect us against Neanderthals, another species that were similar to humans in humans' early upbringing. I believe AI will have a serious impact on stock photography, and I'm already seeing some stock photographers beginning to adapt to this. Petapixel recently ran a story interviewing a stock photographer who was taking multiple images of models and then using those images to build other images of that same face in different environments, such as work environments. You can do this with AI. You can give it an image to feed off of, and it will base its new image on that. And I'm going to use that technique to show you how MidJourney could potentially disrupt other industries, such as portrait photography. Of course, the first thing I did was feed it a picture of myself and tried to live out a childhood dream. I said, rock star on stage with a guitar. And this is what it came back with. Now, none of those are quite my face. It kind of looks like it might be my brother or my dad, and none of the pictures are quite perfect, but they're all actually pretty good. It has the stage lighting, it has styling similar to a rock star. Now we took a simple picture of Chelsea, and I wanted to see if I could turn this into senior portraits. I wanted to see if current AI could put senior portrait photographers out of a job, since that is how so many portrait photographers make a significant part of their income. So I gave it this picture of Chelsea and I said, high school senior portrait on a football field. And this is what it came back with. Now, none of those are Chelsea. In fact, the one in the upper right might be Chelsea Peretti, but they do have that senior portrait vibe, and several of the backgrounds do look like a football field or stands. Now, you could continually regenerate this to get more and more options. You could take one of these and build more variations on it and refine it. You could then pull one of these into Photoshop to do a little extra work if you wanted to. And I think if you were to extrapolate the progress we've made so far out a few years, I definitely think it'll be possible to take a selfie with your phone, run it through AI, and have it output believable, good quality senior photos. That's scary, right? Let that sink in. We'll take a look at some more portraits. What if you did something more fantastic, like a wedding photo, but in a scene that's not really achievable? I said, give me a wedding photo on top of a volcano with a sunset and geese flying through the sky, and fed in that same picture of Chelsea. And my favorite of the 4 was this image. Now again, it does not look like Chelsea. It looks like Chelsea's aunt or older sister, but it's similar. You see the relation there. It made her hair a little bit shorter, but it actually changed the angle of her face a little bit. It completely relit her with sunset style lighting, even though the light source is not coming from the sun that is behind her. There's clearly 2 light sources in this image. The lighting across her dress, her hair, her face is consistent and believable to me. Like, look at the shadows of her nose. It does not bump me as a photographer. It did put her into a wedding dress, and it gave me the volcano feel and the sunset and the birds flying through the background. I am impressed and scared. There will always be a market for portrait photographers because people are traditional and because we take portraits because we want something real of a person at a place and time. And this does not fulfill any of those basic requirements. But at the same time, a lot of people want pictures of themselves that show their best self. They want to show people that they went to Paris, but it was cloudy and raining, and they want it to be sunny with the sunset and birds flying through the sky. And now they can have that. This capability narrows the need for photography. What about wildlife photography? We spend years out in the field trying to capture the most beautiful animals at the most beautiful times of day, doing the most amazing things. Here is a picture of a bald eagle that I took pulling a fish out of the water. I had to travel halfway across the country. I used $20,000 in gear, and I had to get up at like 4 a.m. to get there while the sun was rising. It's a lot of work. I asked AI for a picture of a bald eagle in front of the mountains, feeding it that image, and this is what it came back with. Those are good. They're not perfect. The bills look a little bit like a seagull in a couple of them, and the talons are very messed up. It's still not good at fingers and stuff. I think it's too much fine detail. But those refinements are coming, I'm sure of it. The lighting on these is better than the lighting I got because the sun had gone behind a cloud. And of course, the background is far superior. These would be amazing shots if they were just a little bit more refined. But like portrait photography, wildlife photography is of something real. We are looking for insight into the beauty of nature, and generating it by AI creates something unreal. So it does not fulfill that need for wildlife photographers. But if you are on Instagram and there's a slightly more perfect version of this coming up every 3 pictures, if people can just generate the most fantastic wildlife images, the viewer will get weary of seeing real world images. We will get tired of seeing less than perfect images because the sun happened to go behind a cloud. We will want to see that same image, but with a beautiful snow-capped mountain in the background at sunrise, things that would never line up quite so perfectly. And the real world images will begin to pale by comparison. And soon, wildlife photographers will lose more and more of their viewers, the people who appreciate their work. And if that is part of what drives you to take pictures, that just might disappear. Now, if you are self-motivated, if you do it for the love of nature, as I do, then you will continue to shoot. But some portion of wildlife photographers will disappear. There will no doubt be fewer people spending $20,000 on gear. If you're not mad yet, let me ask you a question. What is the source of these images? The artificial intelligence has to learn from actual intelligence like you and me. The source is, of course, you. The artificial intelligence simply combs the web, finding every image out there. And in a recent interview, we discovered that MidJourney has no respect for copyrights. It simply pulls everything down. It does not matter if you, the photographer, do not give it permission. I asked MidJourney to imagine a guitar player on stage without feeding it a source image, as I did with my own picture. And this is what it came back with. They're cool pictures. But notice in the lower right corner, 2 of these images have watermarks in them. Obviously, it stole them from images that had watermarks, where the photographer wanted people to know that it was their image. They didn't want it stolen. They wanted credit for it. MidJourney did not respect that. MidJourney stole that image and even tried to copy the watermark. The text itself, I can't make it out. I cannot trace these back to the sources. It looks kind of like text you see in a dream, just kind of garbled. But the images themselves, really good. Really striking. Not quite perfect and totally fake, definitely uncanny valley, but getting there and readily admitting to stealing the work from actual photographers just to put them out of work. Here's something even more scary. You can direct MidJourney to steal a particular photographer's style. I asked MidJourney to imagine a mountain landscape in the style of Ansel Adams, and it came back with these 4 options. These mountains even look very much like Yosemite, where Ansel Adams spent a good portion of his time. The reflections in the water are perfect. That's how good the AI is. I refined one of them and it came back with this, and it's a little cartoony. It's a little Thomas Kincaid-y, but it's damn good. It's really close to being perfect and maybe more dangerously better than nature could be. My favorite photographer, my personal icon, is David LaChapelle. I absolutely love his work. So I asked it to create a portrait of Elon Musk because in my last news piece, a bunch of Musk fanboys were super upset because I suggested that perhaps Elon Musk had a reputation for not delivering things on time. I know, absolutely crazy that I would suggest that, but what did those images come back looking like? AI was able to capture some aspects of Elon Musk's personality, like linking him to space travel. But it was also able to capture David LaChapelle's style, especially if you look at the bottom two images. Look at the image on the right here, that halo behind his head. You see that as a repeating theme in David LaChapelle's work. And the AI managed to figure this out and put it in there. The picture itself is a little artificial, but otherwise I'd be damn proud of that picture. And the picture of Musk in the astronaut suit with the cup of coffee a little bit tattered, it's not David LaChapelle's style, but it's still, I think it would be a damn good portrait. Check how the shadows on the coffee cup match the shadows on the wrinkles on his face and the shadows on his jacket. It's a very cool image, generated completely for free in just a couple of minutes. In the comments down below, I'd like to hear what you think. Are robots going to put you out of work? Will you try out MidJourney, either just for creative inspiration or to make images to sell or share? Don't forget to check out our sponsor, Squarespace, truly the web host of the future. Squarespace has real, human, intelligent designers making templates that you build upon to create a space on the web that matches your personality. It is not social media. Your competitors cannot take out ads on this website. You get your own custom domain. You can have a store. You can take appointments from clients, highlight both stills and video, or whatever it is you want to share with the world. Get started today for free at squarespace.com/Tony. You can completely try it out without giving them a credit card number. And when you love it, which I'm sure you will, the coupon code Tony will get you 10% off. Thank you, Squarespace. Bye.